technician will get the video equipment going. Good.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Well, hello everybody. It's nice to see a couple familiar faces anyway. Most of everybody we've never met. I'm Al Honrath, and I was a pilot at American here in Chicago. I retired in 2014 in October, so just about 4 years ago. And I became interested in this subject back, starting in about 2006. I'd been in the Air Force prior to this, and I got the first letter I got was from the Veterans Administration saying that, we lost the laptop and your information was on it, so, good luck and all that. And then the following year I got another letter, and then that one was pretty much a little more, it said, yeah, we lost your stuff. And then the next three said, yeah, we lost everything. Your social security number is out there, your date of birth. And so I became interested in this and started listening and reading. And about a year and a half ago, I came across a master's program over at Lewis University. And so I joined that, and I'm about a little more than halfway through that program. So, all that's to say is that I'm not an expert, but I've got some, exposure to what the experts think. And so, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, tell you anything that you already don't know, but regardless, it's just good to refresh on this from time to time. So our overall goal tonight would be to just talk about ways of reducing our attack surface. And to do that, I want to first define the scope of what we're going to talk about as part of the information system. And obviously the thing we want to protect most is data. That's the most valuable part of the system because that's what becomes information. And that's what we want to protect from other people. But to do that, you have to consider so much more as part of that system. There's the software, hardware, your networks, the people that use all that stuff, and then procedures are basically your behavior. And that has the biggest effect on everything. You can have the most hardened system, but if through your behavior you invite somebody in, then it's kind of all for naught. So we'll talk about all of these parts of the system through, from the standpoint of behavior. And so has anyone gotten these? There's about 6 of these. You just want to share them around. This is just a list of topics tonight, and there's a whole lot more stuff here than we're going to have time for. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about that whole data part. That's pretty generic and stuff. And then after that, just see if there's anything that has any special interest for anybody in those topics, or if there are any questions, and then we'll just talk about that. And we do have one question from Wi-Fi. They asked if we could talk about open Wi-Fi versus using your phone as a hotspot and Xfinity and such like that. So we'll do that question, and then any others.
And all of the other stuff will be in the summary, in the meeting
so
summary.
What we don't cover tonight, there's a PDF available with all the slides. So if you choose to, you can go over it at your convenience and stuff. So let's start with data, and in particular, protecting your credit information and stuff. That's the most valuable out there. And there's several different levels or different ways of doing that. The first is you can put a fraud alert on your credit report, and it's not really worth too much at all. All it is a comment that goes on there, and anyone looking at your credit report sees that comment. They're supposed to make an extra step to try to get a hold of you, but if they can't, that's okay. So really, it's not worth much at all. So don't even consider that. What you do want to do is monitor your credit somehow, and you get one free look at each of your credit reports from each of the agencies each year. So you want to take advantage of that, or you can there's fee for services for this. So you could hire somebody to do that, and then whenever they see a change, they'll send you a notice. Some of them will look around the internet to see if your information is being used in any bad way that they find, and then they'll give you a report. Some provide insurance, so there's different levels of service for different levels of fee, or you can do it yourself. And the biggest thing that you can do is freeze your credit report. And so that's you want to monitor it and think about freezing it really, because that limits who can see it. And the easiest way I know to go about freezing it is to go to this Federal Trade Commission site. And again, don't worry about the URLs and there'd be pathways and some of these things on your computer, because all of these you'll have all of these slides, so don't worry about copying those or anything. But if you go to the Federal Trade Commission site, this is the federal, their FAQs, and if you read down what is it, it's basically limits who can see the report, and it doesn't affect your credit score. You'll still get those credit card offers in the mail, but I've got a slide later that shows you how to diminish that anyway. And then, can anyone see it? Yes, anyone you have an existing relationship with can still access your credit report. But nothing new. Nobody new can access it, and that's where the protection comes. And so this link is how do you do it? And so if you were to click on that, it would take you to this next page here, or it's actually further down on the same page, where it tells you how to do it, and it lists the big three, and there are links and there are phone numbers if you would rather do it by phone, and it tells you that you'll need to give them some information, and at the end they'll give you a PIN number, and you want to keep that in a safe place, because if you ever want to undo this, you'll need that PIN number. So if you were to click that middle link, it would take you right to the Experian website, this page there, and then you just click on that middle security freeze link and follow the instructions, and then you can go back and do it for each of the other two.
Is it complicated to actually go through that process?
It isn't. They'll ask you some information just to make sure they know that it's you. Things like, I once lived at this address, I once had this loan, or things that only you should know that are on your credit report,
kind of thing,
just so that you know that. And then they'll say, you want to freeze it? You want to freeze it for a little bit of a time and then unfreeze it, or what have you. And it used to be, in Illinois, it was $5 to freeze it, to unfreeze it. But as of September, Congress, basically as a result of Experian's breach last year, they said, no, you got to do this for free. So it is free. There's no fee anymore. So you do that, and then it's not at all complicated. They will give you that PIN, and you want to keep it in a safe place, because if you want to undo this, then you'll need it.
I did this with Experian yesterday, 2 days ago.
Oh, is that right?
And I did it for myself, and it worked fine. I stole my wife's password, and I did it on her account, and evidently I didn't answer one of the questions quite right as far as what loan we did or did not have, and what license plate we did or did not have, and so on, or phone number, and so on. And so they declined to freeze my wife's, and what they said, they gave me a page, and it said you had to send a personal letter, certified or regular mail, and you had to include your name, date of birth, social security number, your address, whether you lived there for more than 2 years, and then you had to provide a copy of a driver's license or a government-issued ID card and a utility bill in that person's name.
Wow, yeah.
And the problem was, and I think I'm not probably alone, the vast majority of our utility bills are in my name, not my wife's. So the only one, she has a Target card, and so I'm secondary on that, so I sent that in. We'll see what happens. But one went through and one didn't, and you can go through the process, but I agree, it's a good idea.
And that was just because you answered one question?
I don't know. They give you, you have to provide the information, and I'm sure I put the right birth date and social security number and all that stuff down. But I think back on it, and there might be one phone number that I should have recognized that I didn't, or something like that, and that might have triggered it. So, but in any respect, we sent it in, and so we'll see what happens, but I expect there'll be no problem. But
good.
it's, so, I mean, one worked, one we had to go a little further.
Yeah, I'll talk about this in a moment, looking at your one free look each year, but sometimes online that works, and sometimes have to end up sending them a mail, saying, hey, here's, take a screenshot saying it didn't work, send this mail. I send that in, and then I get it through the mail, but we'll get to that in a moment. There is another smaller credit reporting agency that everybody knows the big three, but there's Innovis. And so you can go to innovis.com, and then the same thing, just there's a link down at the bottom here to get a security freeze on this one. And it's the same thing, they'll give you a PIN number, keep it safe if you ever want to do it. And
What
then,
are the cons to doing that?
well, the cons of doing this is if you are seeking credit, you know, because now anyone you already have a relationship with can still see it. But if you were going to you know, get a mortgage or a car loan or any kind of line of credit or something, they would want to check your credit report. It's a new account, something new that's going to be blocked. They won't be able to see it. So they'll come
They
back with
contact you to say your credit's frozen
yeah, as soon as you apply for something, they're gonna come back and say, hey, you know, we can't see your credit report, you know, you gotta do something. So then, you can go and on that security, if you went to this, when you got there, on this security freeze thing, that's also where you go to unfreeze it. So you just go into the freeze section and then you can freeze it for a time, unfreeze it for good, unfreeze it for this amount of time, unfreeze it for a particular creditor. You know, just a lot of options like that once you get in there.
But you have to do this with each?
Yes, yeah, you do it with the Equifax and Experian, TransUnion, and then Innovis.
So if you wanted to get a new credit card, you'd have to do that 3 times to unfreeze it for each
Well,
one.
if it's a new credit card from your existing bank, then that's an existing relationship.
Right.
Your bank will be able
But if
to
it's
access it.
new
Yeah, but if
to
it's a
the
new
system.
bank, new credit card, you have to unfreeze it.
Yeah, but you can only, I think what your question was, you can like unfreeze it at Equifax and tell them to go to Equifax. Can't you?
Well, they probably have an existing relationship, and they might tell you which one they go to, and then you go to that one, yeah. The next thing you want to do is check your credit report. Like I said, you get a free look at each one each year. This is the easiest way that there is to do that. And you go to this annualcreditreport.com up here. Now, there are people, you know, we're going to try to sell you things, and so there's creditreport.com, there's freecreditreport.com, creditkarma.com, all variations of annualcreditreport.com that are going to try to sell you things, you know, buy your credit score stuff. So annualcreditreport.com is where you want to go to do this. And the big three are represented down the bottom. And so you go to the red link over there. It'll ask, which one of these do you want? You fill out the information. The same thing, you have to prove it's you, and then order it online. And this is where sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you'll just have to end up requesting it by mail.
And you get one free one for each of those each year, right? So
That's correct.
Good
Yeah.
idea to do one every 4 months?
That's right. Well, actually, you also get a free one here. And so you go to that link up there to get the one here. So now you get 4 per
Every
year.
3
You can do
months.
one every 3 months. Yeah. And that way, you know, every 3 months you're looking to see. And if you're frozen, then you really shouldn't see anything. But you can see who's been checking it, and it should be just people that you already have a relationship with. If you, you know, freezing your credit report, I mentioned, is not going to stop the credit card solicitations and stuff like that. But this is another Federal Trade Commission site that talks about, you know, decreasing unsolicited mail, phone calls, and emails. So you can go here and just, you know, there's links and such down in there. So there's another kind of ID theft related to taxes. So tax ID theft, and they've